And we should start so Chris could go to his next meeting
Yeah.
at 6.
So Peter, can you hear us? Peter, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There he is. Okay. I'll call the roll. So Kevin, you can indicate who's here. Juanita,
Here.
Peter,
Yes.
Clarence,
Yes.
and me, Chris, I'm here. So we have a quorum.
Okay,
So
put Fred there. Okay.
yeah, you can just, when Fred comes on, we can say that he entered the meeting.
Okay.
All right, so the first item, I had Kevin text me it, so it's good. Request for determination, Diane Sabato.
Okay, I'm gonna present this one, just a very quick one, just to open up the hearing. And for the listening public, as a reminder, this is still our protocol with COVID. We're recording remotely. If you're watching this meeting and you would like to comment on any of the items, you can do so by calling and leaving a message at 413-787-6234 or by emailing me at kchafee@springfieldcityhall.com. So this is a single family home. We actually, a couple of years ago, permitted some landscape work, some restoration work in the rear of this home. But she would like to install a dock, just, a removable dock. So I'm just going to show you very briefly what the situation is. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
So South Branch Parkway, this is King Oak Lane. This is the property, it goes down to the water. So basically, it's a pretty low impact thing, but through the Wetlands Protection Act, you do need to get docks, even, simple removable ones, approved by the Conservation Commission. And we hadn't done one in a while, so I talked with DEP, and they, Mark Stinson had said that you can do these through a request for determination, because basically it goes in, there's very little impact to the bottom of the lake. It gets secured on the land side, and then at the end of the season gets pulled out. So Ms. Sabato doesn't have an exact dock set just yet, but she shared an example of what she was looking to do. So this is not hers, but what the type that she would like. One that can be modified as such. So what I wanted to do is just open the hearing, because we have to continue regardless, but see if there was any questions or concerns, information that the commission would like between now and the next meeting.
Just if she can get us the drawing, more of a schematic for the one she's buying, I think that'd be helpful for us.
Okay.
I've seen a number of them. Some of them just have feet. Actually, I saw one the other day that just has a set of trailer wheels. You just back it in and then you pull it out at the end of the season.
Okay. Yep. She lives on, is that Bass Pond there?
Yeah,
so
that's a great pond. Now, does she have to get another permit? A state permit?
Is Bass Pond a great pond?
It's considered a great pond because people can fish in it and they can cut across your lawn. I remember that coming up when we were permitting like the weed control.
That's how we found out it was a great pond.
Yeah, because people.
Okay. Well, I will confirm that. I feel like she's been in contact with DEP, because I had a brief conversation about this, like I said, with Mark Stinson, and he didn't mention the waterways piece, but I will confirm that before the next meeting.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's DEP. I think it's like I don't know, fisheries and wildlife. It's something.
Yeah, it's the like it's waterways. I can't remember. It's
Yeah.
not DEP, but it's like a separate permit. So I'll verify that.
Okay.
So if there's nothing additional, I'll stop sharing the screen.
Okay, then we need a motion to continue at the request of the applicant.
I'll make a motion. We continue at the request of the applicant for 55 King Oak Lane.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Peter. Juanita?
Oh, yes. I was going to say, what?
Peter?
Yes.
Clarence?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, thank you. Second one is a notice of intent. Paul Lemieux, Hancock Associates.
Yep, this is for Jamaica Street. So I don't know who would like to start the presentation for this one.
Whoever that is, you're muted.
You're muted.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Kevin, Joe Pesnola from Sherman and Frederick, a division of Hancock Associates, representing Paul Lemieux in his application.
Okay.
I'm going to
Yeah,
go-
you can go right
go
ahead.
through.
And do- Sure,
if I could share my screen.
please, go ahead.
So this is lots 72 and 73 Jamaica Street in Springfield. It's currently a vacant lot. It's 11,000 square feet, and it has a bordering vegetated wetland that runs across the back of the property. Property's only 100 feet of frontage and the average width of 110. So the entirety of the lot is within the buffer zone of the BVW. We also have a floodplain bordering land subject to flooding. That is an unelevated floodplain. I can bring up the floodplain map. So it is an unelevated floodplain. I guess it's a tributary to Loon Pond. Jamaica is here, a little curve in it. We're right here, and there's this flood zone here that's again unelevated. When we did our survey, we graphically put it on from the floodplain FEMA maps, and it runs between the 215 and 216 contour. So we conservatively called it a 216. There is a procedure within the FEMA guidance from the National Flood Insurance Program for approximating zone A's, and it essentially says if the graphical representation lands between contours, then you go a half a contour elevation up, so it's 216. Just to put this in context, the bottom of slope is at 205. The expansive floodplain here from here to here is generally elevation 200 to 205, and it's 260 feet wide. So it's a really, I think, a conservative call to say that we're up at 216. For discussion purposes, the house next door has been in there since 1923. The back of the garage is at 211. Front of the garage is at 214. You know, the house is around 217 to 216. So we think we're being quite conservative just for the purposes of establishing a BLSF without having to go through, you know, a complicated hydraulic study for the watershed, considering this is just a single family house. So the project is a proposed single family house on the lot. And we have the 50-foot wetland buffer, which in your local wetland regulations is a no disturb. We are placing the house outside of that no disturb. We're taking advantage of a zoning ordinance provision, which allows us to put the house closer than the 25-foot setback to the street by matching the setback of the adjoining properties. So we're setting the house at 19 feet off of the street line, 11 feet off of the sideline. And we do have this floodplain impact, which is a 146 square feet, 73 cubic feet from 215 to 216. We are compensating over here by culling out the area and developing 100 cubic feet of compensatory storage for that floodplain impact. So what we're doing inside the 50 is we're not doing any grading. We're setting the foundation down with a walkout basement at 217, so above that 216 floodplain elevation. We have located all of the mature trees above a 6-inch diameter DBH, and there are no trees over 6 inches in this area. There's just some scrub. I can show you a photograph. So this is the house next door at 158. This is kind of the view into the lot, and it's this vegetation here that we're talking about removing. The mature trees that you see in the background and over here would all stay, and those are indicated on our survey here. Some of them are actually not even on the property. They're on the abutting property that's owned by the city. But the large ones in the back would be retained. And then we just establish a loam and seed and lawn. Happy to discuss with the commission, some permanent markers to make sure that there's no creep beyond what we're talking about. The area that we're talking about is 630 square feet. And again, no grade changes, just loam and seed that area. We are proposing some stormwater roof drain dry well up in the corner here. The soils on site are Hinkley loamy sands, so they're deep, very well drained soils with a low water table. So it's conducive for getting the roof in here, and our impervious is just a small driveway to the garage, single car garage, and the roof itself. Connection to city sewer and city water. Fairly straightforward, simple project, but again, a very small lot that would be otherwise undevelopable. We understand your local regulations with regards to grant of variance requires that we demonstrate that there's a net benefit to the wetland. I would contend that the vacant lot in a very old neighborhood tends to be the dumping ground for grass clippings and yard waste, and here we could develop the property, protect the wetlands, again, possibly put some permanent markers at this line, and you know, and hopefully get somebody to live here that's a steward of the surrounding resources, and they'd be locked into an order of conditions with perpetual conditions on maintenance and that do not disturb and so forth. Also happy to put something in the deed that would speak to that, and speak to the no disturb, and those maybe those permanent markers. So that is the project. I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission may have. I'm sorry. We did. We are in receipt of commentary from Mark Stinson from DEP, and I did, albeit late, send over to Kevin some responses to that. He had a question with regards to the way that we established the base flood elevation, and I went over that. He had a comment with regards to how the work complies with the performance standards of BLSF. Essentially, the performance standards of BLSF speak to compensatory storage, making sure there's no loss in floodplain, and I went over that. The second performance standard on BLSF is that nothing we do would impair the flow of waters in the course, in the drainage course or the stream course, and I contend that again the stream floodplain area is elevation 200 to 205, and we're a good 10 feet above that, and nothing we're doing is going to impede that. There's no velocity zone. There's no elevation. You know, again, it's not an overly studied floodplain, so I contend that we're not going to have any impedance of floodwaters. And last, his last comment, or the last performance standard, is that if the impact is more than 10% or 5,000 square feet, then we'd have to get into a habitat study. And here, again, the impact is 146 square feet. The floodplain on site is about 6,000 square feet, so 10% would be 600. That's the lesser of 600 or 5,000, so we're well below that at 146 square feet, so there's no need for a habitat evaluation. And Mark's last comment was with regards to no data sheets on the wetlands. Keith Morris did the wetland flagging back in June. He said it was pretty clear cut. He'd be happy to go out there with Kevin and take a look at it. It's kind of just, again, the toe is slope at the back of the lot, and he said it was pretty clear cut. But it's whatever's the pleasure of the commission. We can get Keith to do whatever the commission pleases. So with that, open it up to any questions.
Do you have to add the 600 square feet of lawn that you're putting into that calculation for DEP, not just the floodplain?
It's just the floodplain impact. Yeah, it's just the floodplain impact, because there's no floodplain impact in the 630 square feet because we're not making any grade changes.
So the opposite side where the garage is, from what I'm looking at, the right side, will there be any yard? I'm always thinking of the people who buy this house that they really don't have a backyard. Will they have? Is there anything on the side? Will that be a side yard or? Yeah,
there'll be a side yard. The roof drainage, dry well is underground, so there'll be a side yard there. And we're asking the commission to consider a variance so that we are establishing a 20-foot area in the back. Although it's on a slope, it is some backyard to hang out and put some lawn furniture or whatever. But yes, there's the whole side yard area there that's outside the 50.
Well, they really don't have much of a backyard. It's really the side. I'm looking at here, I mean, if we put boundaries on the 50, there's not much of a backyard, but it's the side. I mean, I guess they could put a deck out there or something.
Well,
Yeah.
Juanita, he's that shaded area is beyond, is within the 50. That's what they're requesting the variance for. So,
Right.
So it's even a little bit, it's that dashed line. So it's not just right at the 50, which is very close to the house. It's also like a little bit beyond the 50 too.
So this would be the backyard.
And that, okay, I guess I thought that was beyond the 50. It was just going to be mowed.
Yeah, that's what we're proposing, is that we'll loam and seed this area, and this will be lawn.
So the boundary marks will go where?
The boundary marks would go along
Oh,
this,
all right. I'm sorry. I thought
And
it
then-
was the,
and then come down here. So we'd maintain the 50 here,
okay.
and then come back and do the boundary here to delineate what, again, if the commission sees fit to grant the variance, then we would establish it there permanently.
Oh, see, I just thought it was going to be mowed but not used. Okay.
So Loon Pond is a pretty nutrient-loaded pond. Establishing lawn back there, I think we'd have to put in something that only organic type fertilizers and lawn treatments be used. Because Loon Pond has a very heavy nutrient load.
But even
happy-
organic
Yeah.
feeds the plants,
I would be happy to accept that kind of a condition, and again, I see that as being a positive in that it's a permanent condition or perpetual condition that survives the COC.
Organics do, Juanita, but they don't, according to what I've read anyway, you don't get as much runoff into the pond from organics as you do from the typical chemical that they're putting out today, the granular stuff.
Mm.
A point of clarification, it's more on, it may even be outside of our jurisdiction or just slightly in. There's a detail on the plan that says grant easement to neighbor for driveway encroachment. That means that the neighbor's driveway is slightly, after your survey, that the neighbor's driveway is slightly on your property, the property that you're presenting about.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not the opposite. Okay, I just wanted to.
There's an encroachment by the neighbor onto the property down in this corner.
Yeah,
So
that gentleman had just stopped by the office. He was, as an abutter, he was curious about it, and he was kind of like just very, very curious about the whole thing. And so I looked at the plan with him, and because he had said he saw the stake that was kind of in his driveway, which you can see on this. So I just gave him like the, general information from the application, which is public information, that he get in contact with the property owner, just so he was aware of like these things that were happening. Like he basically bought the property within the last year or two, it sounds like, and it was sort of news to him about the actual property boundaries. So he was I just wanted to put it in the record that he was, it'd be good if the applicant could communicate with him moving forward.
Absolutely, and that's our intent. We understand that they're small lots and they're tight, so that's why our client, the applicant is willing to grant that easement to allow that him to keep his driveway.
Okay.
Plus, if he grants the easement, it doesn't kick in adverse possession, which could actually make your lot too small to qualify.
Very true, Mr. Chairman.
So it's a good approach for both. Other questions from the commission? Kevin, any concerns? Any reason you think that we have to continue to the next meeting anyway?
Yeah, we have to continue anyways, just in, I wanted to do like a little more deep dive into your responses to DEP's comments, just because it came at the end of the day. But currently, no, with projects like this, in the past, completely unrelated to your development, I'm just, certain things I've been dealing with recently is like, we would really just want to really hammer home limit of work during construction, just to eliminate any, I'm thinking of a particular project where there were just, the people on the permitting side were not the people necessarily doing the development, and we had some encroachment just during construction, not even from the folks who ended up living there. So I think my biggest concern will be just getting the erosion controls in, properly installed, like establishing that limit of work, and particularly if the commission is comfortable with this proposal, that we might want if we condition it with those markers, the permanent markers, that those go in kind of sooner rather than later, just so during construction there's no question of where you guys can work. So that's my biggest thing.
Yeah. No, and I totally agree that's critical. Does the commission have a preferred marker method?
I think in the past it's generally just been like kind of a cement sonotube, 4 or 5 inches, and just painted some obvious color, that sort of thing. No, it doesn't have to be fluorescent orange, but just not blending in with the with the leaves.
Understood.
That would be my only concern. And then, like, from a stormwater perspective, our erosion controls are our biggest thing. And you're proposing to send your roof runoff to the front into a dry well, so you're not poking a pipe out the back, just creating a channel down the slope. So those would have been my big things. And I just wanted to make sure that there was no work being proposed on a adjacent property, and you explain that. So I at this point my current questions have been answered, and I'm fine to continue.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to continue at the request of the applicant. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll
I'll
make a
make a-
motion.
Go
I'll make a
ahead.
motion to
Peter beat you.
continue at the request of the applicant.
Thank you, Peter.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Juanita. Okay, we'll vote on that. Juanita,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Clarence,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Thank you.
Excellent.
We'll-
Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
So item 3 is Diamond Point Development.
Yep, this is the 1021 Boston Road self-storage. So there's a couple people here who would like to kick it off.
Good afternoon, Kevin. Good afternoon, members of the commission. My name is Phil Cordero from Allen and Major Associates, and would like to do the introduction of the project whenever you're ready.
Go right ahead.
Fantastic. So I'm here this evening. I do have members of Diamond Point Development on the line with me. And we also have 2 representatives from GZA who performed the wetland evaluation on the property. So with your permission, Mr. Chairman, may I share my screen?
Please.
Thank you. Fantastic. And just confirming that you're able to see that screen, everybody?
Yep, I can see it.
Great.
Yes.
What we're proposing this evening is an application with the planning board for redevelopment of the existing property that's at 1021 Boston Road and 20 Shumway Street. It's a combination of 5 parcels that will be combined together, seeking redevelopment. And what the application is, and we'll address that one first, the application is to redevelop the property to provide a 4-story self-storage building and 2 single-story self-storage units. I think the commission is likely familiar with the nature of these properties, where you can rent a unit and store your personal belongings in them within the main building, climate controlled, and then direct ground access to the ones below. I'm just going to bring out my highlighter. So you can see, obviously, this is the 4-story building is located here, self-explanatory, and then the single units are located down here. We do have wetland resources adjacent to the property, and GZA can elaborate on those further. We have a delineated wetland resource area boundary located in the southwest corner of the property. And because of that, we have jurisdictional areas, including the 50-foot no disturb buffer, and then certainly the 100-foot that develops jurisdiction. I think what I'd like to do with the commission, I want to make sure I outline the proposal in a very clear and concise manner. But before I describe the wetland resource areas, I think I have to bring into context the file number review letter that was issued by Mark Stinson. And I think that will help clarify the project as we move forward. The original application that we submitted to the commission identified the area back here as isolated land subject to flooding. And then it made some stray references to bordering vegetated wetland. What I want to present to the commission, and we will clarify this with Mark Stinson, is that the area at the back of this property is technically isolated land subject to flooding based on the evaluation that GZA performed. Isolated land subject to flooding obviously has no performance buffers associated with it under the Act. However, under Chapter 417 of the City Code, we designate this area as isolated vegetated wetland under the city standards, under the commission standards, and then therefore the performance buffer zones of a 50-foot no touch, and then the 100-foot jurisdictional area kick in. So one of the things that we are going to need to do as part of this process moving forward is we're going to send a clarification into Mr. Stinson, just outlining that. And we're actually going to ask for removal without prejudice of this application from the Wetlands Protection Act, because this will only become jurisdictional now. Because this work is solely relegated to buffer work, it's only going to be relegated under the commission's purview under the city's ordinance under conservation. Okay. So what we're asking for permission under this project is to build within the 50 to 100-foot zone of an IVW as shown on the plan that's on the screen in front of you. And our work will be located just outside of the 50-foot line. Our closest area will be right here on the plans. And I'll see if I can zoom in for the commission. Just so you can see what the effect is here. Our closest work will be right at the 50-foot line here. So just outside of it. So we want to make sure that we are representing that we are not affecting the 50-foot buffer line, the no disturb zone. However, as part of what we'll also discuss here with the commission this evening is because we are in such close proximity to the 50-foot line, would like the opportunity that if we need to enter into that space for construction purposes, not for permanent alteration, but just simply for logistics and feasibility of installing a silt fence and an erosion barrier, and then construction of the building, permission to enter into that space and then remediate any temporary disturbance that may occur. And I know we didn't describe that fully in the notice, but we will discuss it here with you. I'm sorry, was there a question?
No, keep going.
Okay,
think
I
someone's mic-
apologize.
Someone's voice is on, that's all.
Okay, no problem. So if I advance, I think what the commission will find is very typically, we will provide, and as designated on the application plans, erosion control measures installed at the 50-foot boundary. Silt fence and straw wattles will be installed. And we did put forth in the application, and I'm happy to elaborate them for the benefit of the commission, meeting the stormwater standards under the Wetlands Protection Act. We will be installing a new controlling stormwater system, inclusive of deep sump and hooded catch basins, water quality devices, proprietary treatment devices, and then a subsurface recharge field to mitigate the increase in impervious area that we're creating as a result of this project. Everything will ultimately discharge through a flared end section located outside of the 50-foot no disturb, equipped with a riprap flow dissipator so we don't get that erosion and channeling that can occur if the area is unconfined or uncontrolled. But in total, we'll meet all of the standards necessary to purport that this is a current modern stormwater system. The property is, as most are aware, is currently partially developed. So the application that's in front of you is for a combination of redevelopment and new development. And where new development is proposed, we've done the stormwater standards. And where redevelopment is proposed, we've met them to the extent practicable, which in this case is meeting them to the fullest extent. We were able to build the redevelopment portion of the existing parking lot and existing buildings and tie those into our stormwater system so we can present to you a fully compliant plan. We're not seeking any waivers or provisions or non-compliance under the 10 stormwater standards, and we meet the city code otherwise. I think what I've done is I've sort of been all over on the map for you just because of the way the wetland resource areas had to be described, and I apologize for jumping around on you. But I think what I'd like to do at the moment to further clarify the wetland resource areas is I'd like to ask GZA, who did the delineations for us, to just jump in and just give us a field description of the wetland resource areas for the commission's benefit. And then maybe we can ask Kevin what the agent's report is relative to the application. So GZA, do you want to jump in and describe what you encountered in the field for the benefit of the commissioners, please?
Yes, this is Adrienne Dunk from GZA. We performed the wetland delineation on June 8th, 2021. And as described, the isolated land subject to flooding is relegated to that southwest corner of the property and on the neighboring property. We walked around the entire perimeter of the area and did not observe any inlet or outlet. It's an isolated depressional area. We did observe water in the lower areas of the depression. Some areas were as deep as over 18 inches, up to 20 inches. There were also islands within this depressional area. And then to delineate the extent of the flooding, we observed staining on tree trunks that extended a foot or more above the observed water. So we took that staining and used that as our high level mark, our high water mark, and extrapolated that out topographically to delineate the furthest extent that elevation of water would extend. And that's what we flagged. In our wetland assessment report, which was submitted, that's explained along with photographs of the staining are included.
Thank you. Commission members have questions. No, I don't hear any. Kevin, any comments or questions?
My biggest thing, obviously they're fighting to keep a 50-foot buffer. My biggest review is just going to be of the stormwater. So I'm going to follow up with our city engineering just because they're going to do a full review of the stormwater system. And you presented that you're in compliance with the stormwater standards, so that'll just be my focus between now and the next hearing. And as long as our city engineering folks are happy with the design and it passes the stormwater standards, I think in general I'm happy with it. I appreciate that you talked about how your development is right on the 50-foot, so realistically you're going to have to slightly encroach during construction. So we may just have to work up some conditions between now and then if the commission's okay with it. If it doesn't involve major tree removal or something like that, some limited clearing can occur, but that some sort of mitigation restoration will happen following construction. So at this point, I'm happy to just continue the item until our next meeting.
Yeah, I'm going to take a motion because we've got two more items and we'll lose a quorum in about 18 minutes.
Okay.
So I'll entertain a motion to continue this to the next meeting at the request of the applicant.
I'll second it.
Well, Clarence, you made it.
I'll second.
Thank you, Peter. I can't make it from the chair, so
Oh,
I will
okay, sorry.
I will, Juanita? She said yes. She was muted, but she said, Clarence,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Thank you. We will see you at our next meeting.
Great. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you at the next meeting.
Phil, I'll be in contact with your team.
Yes, please. And I'm happy to walk through with you and the city engineer on that detail for you.
Yeah,
Thank
that'd be great. And I'm gonna request from Dan that we just to go see the site as well. So
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, so we're on to continued items. Park Department GZA.
Hi, Adrian, I'm here representing Loon Pond Park improvements for the city of Springfield. Since our last meeting, we received DEP comments. We provided a response to those last week. The comments included a comment that we would require a Chapter 91 license, as Loon Pond is a great pond. So that's for any work below the high water mark. GZA and the applicant understand that, and we are actually in process of starting to prepare that permit. So similarly to the natural heritage, work in the pond will not begin until we have the applicable permits, which would include the Chapter 91. Mark's second comment was about he provided additional DEP guidance on isolated land subject to flooding. Similar to at 1021 Boston Road, GZA did the delineation based off the largest visual observation of staining of water, not simply the observed water on the day of the delineation. So we do believe that wetland is an isolated land subject to flooding. And then his final comment was regarding the priority habitat. He clarified that that the commission does not have to wait for the natural heritage determination to make a decision. So we appreciate that clarification. However, we did receive our determination in the meantime. So it's moot at this point. So we received our determination. And again, this project was designed to be phased so that work 50 feet from Loon Pond and landward would be completed in phase 1. And that was to be protective of the emergent plant species, which is what the priority habitat is for. So Natural Heritage agreed with that work. So they found that phase 1 would result in no take. They did include some conditions, primarily around erosion and sedimentation control. The proposed meadow will need to be native species, which we in the Parks Department agree with. And that they need a compliance report. So the applicant is happy to comply with those conditions and receive a no-take determination for phase 1. Phase 2, as expected, they determined that they will need additional information. This emergent plant will need to be surveyed for, and ideally it's surveyed for in August or September under drought conditions. As everyone knows, we've had very high water this year. So we are actively working with Natural Heritage to determine a survey plan that they find acceptable given the conditions. So that will be in place. It's changing and they're still refining what the plan is, but more information will be provided to Natural Heritage and no work will be conducted for phase 2 within the water until we get that approval from Natural Heritage along with the Chapter 91 permit. So those are the changes, or those are the updates since the last meeting. The plans haven't been revised since they were presented.
So the way I took it was that you kind of designed the project with the expectation of where the vegetation will be and to minimize impact. So if all goes as planned, even after your work with Natural Heritage, your survey, presumably they won't change drastically. So my suggestion to the commission is if there's no more questions or concerns, that we can close and issue an order that would include the phase 1 conditions from Natural Heritage. We would grant, sort of with the expectation that the phase 2 work will be approved by Natural Heritage. We grant a variance to the 50-foot no disturb. We approve the very modest resource area impacts for the installation of the boat ramp and other things that were presented at the previous meeting. And then with all, and actually, when you were talking about the Natural Heritage conditions, they're very similar to what we put in anyways, the native plant species, that sort of thing. So they kind of jive with what we have. But if any major changes to the project plans occur, that you'd come back and amend the order before the phase 2 work starts. So with Natural Heritage's letter in hand and the clarification from DEP, I currently have no more concerns about this project.
Kevin, I would just put in your order that phase 2 starts after you have received both the permit and the National Heritage Plan, reviewed it and acknowledged to them in writing that you have reviewed it. So they've got something in record, and so do we, before they start work on phase 2. Hearing, so you'll prepare that for the next meeting, Kevin, or?
No, I think
that prepare for tonight.
It'd be our standard order plus what I just said,
Okay.
including your condition.
Okay. So then what we would need to do at this point is someone make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Thank you, Juanita.
I'll second.
Thank you, Peter. Juanita,
Yes,
Peter,
Yes.
Clarence,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. Thank you. So
We
the
could
next,
just,
is the next item continued on?
is continued. They still have outstanding issues to discuss with engineering, so we don't need to review that one tonight.
Okay, so then a motion to issue the order of conditions as read by Kevin is in order at this time.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as read by Kevin.
Thank you, Peter.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Clarence. Juanita,
yes,
Peter,
Yes.
Clarence,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. And the last item, there isn't anything, right? So we've
Well,
concluded.
there's one item just past that. It's a certificate of compliance.
Yep.
If you remember, Ramblewood Drive is that huge development. This is just one of those houses that 30 years ago got caught by the order of conditions, but is outside of jurisdiction. So,
So are you issuing a partial?
partial, yeah.
So a motion to issue a partial certificate of compliance for is it 61? Yeah, 61 Ramblewood is in order.
so moved.
Thank you.
A second.
Thank you, Clarence. Juanita,
Yes,
Peter,
Yes.
Clarence,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. And so a motion to adjourn is in order.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Peter.
I'll
I'll
second that.
second it.
Thank you. I think
Juanita can.
Ah, it doesn't matter. We just want to get Chris going to the meeting.
Oh, okay,
Juanita?
that's right.
Juanita,
Yes,
Peter,
Yes.
Clarence,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Kevin, any word from the law department on the clerk?